CCTV's Sean Callebs begins a special series with a look at the hot-button issue of immigration reform. This is Route 2014.
In President Barack Obama's hometown of Chicago, Illinois, immigration is one of the key issues in the midterm races. Here in the neighborhood of Little Village, there are more than 20,000 undocumented workers, most from Mexico. People living in the shadows, constantly in fear of deportation.
I remember being around 12 years old when my parents told me that they themselves were undocumented. And it was like a big shock when they said, you know, we don't have papers, we're not here legally. Like, we can get deported any minute and we'll be gone like this.
It was this shock to the system that made 23-year-old Adalia Cervantes want to be a community organizer and work to reform immigration laws in the United States. Cervantes is a U.S. citizen and was thrilled 6 long years ago when candidate Barack Obama vowed to make life better for immigrants within his first 100 days in office.
I was just so excited thinking that he was going to give us this immigration reform.
But nothing has changed, despite another Obama promise for reform in 2012 and again this year. Adalia says her family and friends are still labeled illegals, a term she loathes.
Illegal is a thing. And when you're telling a person that they are illegal, it's like you're saying that they're not human.
Many Latinos here in Obama's hometown believe the president's image has become permanently tarnished. Too many promises of immigration reform have gone unfulfilled. And now many believe that Obama and Democrats in general are taking the voting bloc for granted.
Not only did he not deliver, we've seen record levels of deportations, more than any other president in U.S. history.
Lawrence Benito now calls President Obama the deporter-in-chief, saying 2 million people have been deported from neighborhoods like Little Village during Obama's administration. But what about the argument that undocumented workers are in the U.S. illegally? And critics say a drain on taxpayers while taking jobs from U.S. citizens.
You go into any restaurant, any hotel, who's washing your dishes, cleaning your hotel room, taking care of your kids? We need to have an honest conversation in this country about what we need and look who's delivering those things.
One thing Latino voters may not deliver this election: votes to the Democratic Party.
I don't want to get my hopes up on them. But then also, if we vote for the Republican Party, we've known that they do not want us here at all.
People are angry, they're frustrated, they're disillusioned by our system of government in which politicians say what they think people want to hear and then not deliver.
Broken promises could cost Democrats dearly at the polls. Latinos are the largest minority in the U.S. and have always been a virtual lock for the Democratic Party. But as one voter told me, she would rather vote for a Republican who openly demonizes her as opposed to a Democrat who doesn't tell the truth.
And Sean Callebs is here with us in our Washington Broadcast Center. And of course, some Latinos and Hispanics say that they're going to stay away from the polls next week. But we want to take a look at this graph because I think it's interesting. It takes a look at the turnout rates among different ethnicities. White people tend to vote more than any other group, followed by blacks. At the bottom, Hispanics and Asians. Fewer than 1 in 3 Hispanics or Asians vote in these midterm elections. Interestingly enough, you talk to this community organizer. Here is a community organizer who ran for president and had all this backing. Now these people say they're going to stay away. Were you kind of surprised at, you know, the degree of how angry they are?
Yeah, that's exactly the tone. I mean, I was really surprised. I went up there anticipating they'd be frustrated. Let's remember, Barack Obama said within his first 100 days, back in 2008, he would reform immigration. Now, 6 years later, Latinos up in Chicago, his own hometown, are saying they're calling him the deporter-in-chief, saying he's deported 2 million people, split up more families than any other president. I was really surprised for just how angry, just how frustrated, and the strong language people were using to talk about him.
It's interesting, though, the Hispanics that I've spoken to in the past say if there's any hope of any kind of reform, it's going to rest with the Democrats. and yet they're unhappy with his action or lack of action on this issue. What do they think about staying away? I mean, about the overall impact?
Well, it's not just staying away. If you look at the makeup of the Latinos here in the United States, a number of them are under 18, a large percentage. And traditionally in the United States, as we get older, we tend to go to the polls more often. Even those Latinos who aren't under 18 are still very young in this country. And secondly, a lot of them live in states that really aren't contested. Texas, California. We know Texas is going to go to the GOP. We know California is going to go to the Democrats. The only exception, Florida, a very key state, and Latinos could have a very huge say in that state this year.
It's worth watching, no doubt about it. Fascinating report, and we're going to get a lot more from you.
It was a really great trip. We went through the heartland, a lot of good stories coming ahead.
All right, we're looking forward to it.